You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 64. Chow Gai appears in a dream. White Fish has his revenge. Suo Chow's soldiers did not follow his mad dash, but returned to the city and reported the matter to the Grand Secretary, who was much upset by the news. He gave orders for all soldiers to stand on defense, but not go outside the city. He realized now that he could not execute Lu Junyi or Shirshio without aggravating Song Jiang for another attack. As the imperial troops had been defeated, he saw disaster facing him. He sent an urgent messenger to the eastern capital reporting the position and appealing for help. Suo Chao was taken to the brigands' camp as a prisoner and was brought before the assembled leaders in Song Jiang's tent. Song Jiang was much pleased at seeing him, dismissed the guard, untied the prisoner's bonds, and then addressed him. You will have noticed that among our leaders here more than half have previously served in the imperial army. If you do not disdain us, we request you to join us to execute the will of heaven. Yang Ji now stepped forward and greeted Suo Chao as an old friend. They talked and wept together at this meeting. Since this was the position, Suo Chao accepted Song Jiang's proposal. Song Jiang was very glad at this and ordered a feast to be prepared to celebrate the occasion. On the following day, the attack on Daming continued and was repeated for several days without any success. One night when Song Jiang was sitting in his tent in a melancholy mood, suddenly a very cold wind sprang up, and his lamp was almost extinguished by the icy blast. Looking up, he saw in the dim light the form of a man who looked very like his late commander Chow Gai. The figure did not enter his tent, but spoke. Younger brother, what are you doing here? Song Jiang was startled, but standing up, he replied, Elder brother, where have you come from? I am very sorry that since you left I have not been able to avenge your death. Just now we have urgent business here, so that I have not been able to sacrifice to you for some time. Today your spirit has appeared, and I am quite prepared to be reproved for my faults. Brother, you do not understand, said Chow Gai. We were bosom friends, so I have now come to help you. There is a propitious star Di Ling Xing in Jiangnan which will relieve you of your load of trouble. Of many plans sometimes the best and only one is to leave. Why do you not clear out at once? What keeps you here? If a calamity is approaching, how can you avoid it? By that time you must not blame me for giving you no help. Song Jiang wished for further information and took a step forward. He asked, Spirit of my elder brother, I beg you to speak clearly and truthfully. You need not speak any further, said Chow Gai. Arrange your affairs and depart without any delay. I must go now. The figure vanished, and Song Jiang thought he had only had a dream. But he sent for Wu Yong to come and see him at once. Upon the latter's arriving, Song Jiang told him of his dream. We cannot doubt that Chow Gai's spirit has actually conveyed that message to you, said Wu Yong. It is very cold here, and our men cannot stand these hard conditions very long. We must send them all back to Liangshan Marsh. We can come again in spring and attack this town with greater chances of success. What you say is quite true, said Song Jiang. But Lu Junyi and Shirshio are still in prison, and they are expecting us to save them. I am afraid that they will be executed if we leave now. What shall we do? They talked the matter over for a long time, but came to no decision. The following day Song Jiang was feverish and also had a splitting headache. He felt very tired and did not get up. The leaders came to see what was the matter, and Song Jiang told them that he had a pain in his back. Upon examining the spot they found a big red swelling. Wu Yong said, I have read in a medicine book that the poison in these swellings can be kept away from the heart by a diet of green beans. We have no doctor on our strength, so that is the best thing for the remedy. Previously my mother had the same complaint, said Zhang Shun, and although we tried 100 medicines she got no better. At last we got a doctor named Daoquan from Jiankong Prefecture 79, who knew the disease and cured her. I was very grateful to him, and whenever I got some money I sent it to him as gifts. I will ask him to come here and cure Song Jiang. But it is a long journey, and will take some time to get the doctor here. Wu Yong then mentioned Song Jiang's dream of Chaogai the previous night, and said how Chaogai had suggested that a propitious star in Jiangnan, south of the Yangtze River, could relieve him of a coming calamity. Can it be that this doctor and Daoquan is that very star? Younger brother, said Song Jiang, send for this man at once and save my life. There must not be the least delay in this matter. Wu Yong got about 100 taels of silver for the doctor and handed them to Zhang Shun. He also told him, today we are all going back to Liangshan Marsh, so you must bring the doctor there without any delay. Zhang Shun started off immediately. Wu Yong then issued orders for a return to Liangshan Marsh, and they started that very day, Song Jiang being carried on his bed in a cart. When Grand Secretary Liang heard of the departure of the brigands, he discussed matters with his generals and decided not to pursue them, as they considered this move might be some new plot of the brigands to get them out of Daming Prefecture. Zhang Shun traveled day and night with all possible speed, but he found it somewhat difficult owing to the snow on the ground. He braved both wind and snow without regard for his own safety. At last he reached the Yangtze River, but there was no boat available. He was very disappointed at this, but continued his way along the northern bank. He soon came to many reeds amid which he saw some smoke. He called out, "Hey brother! Quickly get your boat ready to take me across." A man emerged from the reeds wearing a broad straw hat and a grass raincoat. He asked, "Where do you want to go?" "I want to go to Jiankong Prefecture, on urgent business," replied Zhang Shun, "and I will pay you much money to row me across the river quickly." "I can take you across," said the man, "but it is getting rather dark now, and there is no place on the opposite bank for you to sleep. You had better sleep in my boat here, and I will take you across tomorrow morning at daybreak." Zhang Shun agreed to this, and followed the man through the reeds to the bank, where there was a boat with a young fellow on board warming himself at a fire. They went under cover on the boat, and Zhang Shun took off his wet clothing, and the boatman handed it to his assistant to dry at the fire. Zhang Shun undid his baggage, took his quilt, and wrapping it round himself lay down. He then asked the boatman whether it was possible to get some wine, and was informed there was none. Zhang Shun ate some rice, and then lay down again. He had had such a hard day traveling that he was very tired and soon fell asleep. The assistant, seeing this, pulled his lips awry towards Zhang Shun, and whispered to the boatman, "Brother, do you see?" The boatman crept forward silently, and felt at Zhang Shun's bundle. He then went back, and told his assistant to quietly row the boat into the middle of the river where they would kill the passenger. The assistant jumped ashore, and untied the boat. Then pushing with a bamboo pole, and then sculling, he took the boat into the middle of the river. While this was being done, the boatman had quietly bound the sleeper with cords, and now carried him from underneath the cover onto the open deck. Zhang Shun was now awake, but found himself bound hand and foot. The boatman took a knife in one hand, and put the other hand on Zhang Shun. "Please spare my life," appealed Zhang Shun. "I will give you all the money I have." "I want both your money and your life," replied the boatman. "Then do not kill me, but only drown me," appealed Zhang Shun, "and then my spirit will not trouble you afterwards." "That I can do," said the boatman. He then took Zhang Shun and threw him into the water. Taking the bundle, he opened it, and was surprised to find such a lot of money. He frowned at this, and called his assistant. When the latter came inside, the boatman seized him, and taking the knife killed him on the spot. He then threw the body overboard. He washed the blood from the deck, and then sculled back to the bank. When Zhang Shun was in the water, he soon bit the cords tying his hands, then freed his feet, and swam to the southern bank of the Yangtze River. There he saw a light among some trees, and going near he found that it was an inn where they were distilling wine in the night. He called out, and pushing open the door entered, and saluted an old man who was inside. The old man said, "I can see that you have been robbed on the river, and have escaped by jumping into the water and swimming ashore." "I will be quite straight with you," said Zhang Shun. "I am from Shandong, and am on my way to Jiankong Prefecture on urgent business. Last evening I got on a boat to cross the river, and did not suspect that the boatmen were bad fellows. They took all my silver and clothes, and threw me into the water. But I swam across to this side, and so saved my life. I appeal for your assistance." The men led Zhang Shun into a room at the back, and gave him dry clothes for a change. He then produced food and wine. He asked for Zhang Shun's name and his business. Zhang Shun gave his name, and explained that he wished to see an old friend doctor at Jiankong. "On your way here did you pass Liangshan Marsh?" asked the man. Zhang Shun admitted this, and the man remarked, "At that place there is a man named Song Jiang who does not molest travelers, but acts as the agent of heaven." "Yes," said Zhang Shun, "he is a very honest and upright man. He does not injure the people, but is opposed to all corrupt officials." "I have heard the same. His followers help the poor and the old, and are quite different to the brigands about here. If he came to this place he would be welcomed by all the people." Zhang Shun then disclosed that he was one of the leaders at Liangshan Marsh. That Song Jiang was seriously ill with a boil on the back, and that he had been given 100 taels of silver to go quickly for doctorin. It was a misfortune that he had fallen asleep on the boat and been robbed. The old man said, "As you are one of those leaders I will introduce my son to you." In a short time a young man came from the back room, and saluted Zhang Shun. He said, "I am Wang Dinglu, but the people call me Lightning Goddess, because I walk very quickly. I like swimming, but so far have not been able to get a good instructor to teach me the use of sticks, and have had to earn a living at this inn. I know those 2 thieves who assaulted you. One is Zhang Wang, the river devil, and the other is Sun V, the oily eel. They are always robbing travelers. If you would stay here for a few days you would see them come here, and then you could have your revenge." "I am grateful for your offer," said Zhang Shun, "but I cannot delay my important affair. So tomorrow I will go to the town, and after finding doctorin I will see you again on my way back." This was agreed to, and the following day Wang Dinglu gave Zhang Shun new clothes and 10 taels of silver. It was a fine day, and the snow had stopped. Zhang Shun soon reached the town, and found Dr. N's place close to the Huaishu Bridge. He entered the dispensary, and saluted Dr. N Daoquan. Immediately Dr. N remembered him, and said, "I have not seen you for many years. What wind has blown you here?" Zhang Shun went into the inner room, and there told the doctor his business. He explained how he had been robbed in crossing the Yangtze River, and therefore arrived without money. As Song Jiang, the uprighteous hero, is sick, it is important that he should be cured quickly, said Doctorin, but unfortunately my wife died recently, and as I have no relative to look after my business here I cannot go to any distant place. Zhang Shun pleaded earnestly for a long time for the doctor to go, and at last said he would not return without the doctor. Thus after much discussion Doctorin agreed to go. In the town was a prostitute named Li Qiaonu, who was on very familiar terms with Doctorin, and the latter took Zhang Shun to see her. Food and wine were provided, and during the meal Doctorin spoke, "I will sleep here tonight, but early tomorrow morning I will start on my journey to Shandong. I will return however in about a month." "I do not like you to leave me," said the woman. "If you do not listen to me now you need not trouble to come here again to see me." "I have made all preparations to start tomorrow," said Doctorin, "and I will come back as quickly as possible, so you must not worry." The woman threw all discretion on one side, and leaning on his breast said, "If you go and forget me, I will curse the flesh from your body." Zhang Shun was very much annoyed with the woman. As it was now late in the evening, Doctorin was drunk, and he went into the woman's room, and lay down. The woman spoke to Zhang Shun, "You can go now, as I have no place here for you to sleep." "I will wait here until the doctor is sober," said Zhang Shun, "and then we will depart together." As she could not get him to go, the woman at last gave him a small room to sleep in. Zhang Shun was annoyed at what had happened, and could not sleep. Shortly afterwards he heard a knock at the house door, and looking through a crack in his own room, he saw the door open, and a man enter. The man spoke something to the old woman that ran the house, who opened the door for him, and she asked him, "Where have you been lately? I have not seen you for a long time. The doctor is drunk inside, so you cannot stay here tonight. I have 10 taels of gold here to be made into hairpins for your mistress. Please ask her to come here and talk with me now," said the man. "Come into my room," said the old woman, "and I will bring her there." Zhang Shun now recognized the man as Zhang Wang, the river devil, who had robbed him, and became excited. But he still watched what was happening as he did not want to delay his own affair by attacking this thief. The prostitute came and sat drinking wine with Zhang Wang. About midnight the woman and 2 servants in the kitchen were quite drunk. Then Zhang Shun left his room and went into the kitchen where he found a meat cleaver there. He killed the woman, but although he wanted to kill the 2 servants, he found that the edge of the cleaver was not sharp enough after hacking up the old woman. He took a wood axe and killed them with that as they were going to call out. The prostitute in the inner room, hearing the noise, opened the door and met Zhang Shun with the wood axe in his hand. He dealt her a blow with it and killed her on the spot. Zhang Wang, the robber, seeing this happen, jumped up, opened a window, and escaped that way. Zhang Shun was annoyed at this as the man might raise an alarm. He, however, tore a strip of cloth from the woman's clothing, and dipping it in the pool of blood he wrote on the wall, "I, Doctorin, have killed these people." He wrote this in several places with the blood. About daybreak Doctorin awoke, and Zhang Shun said to him, "Please keep quiet, but look at your lover here." Doctorin got up, and seeing the 4 corpses he was dumbfounded and trembled with fear. "Brother, do you see what you have written on the walls?" asked Zhang Shun. "You have seriously implicated me and endangered my life," said Doctorin. "There are 2 ways lying before you," said Zhang Shun. "You can cry out for help, in which case I shall run away and leave you to your fate. Or you can ignore this affair, go to your shop for your medicines, and escape with me to Liangshan Marsh to cure Song Jiang. Which do you prefer?" "You have been too malicious in your actions," said Doctorin, but he agreed to go. It was still dark, and they both left the house. Upon reaching the doctor's shop they opened the door, got the medicines and bundle, and started off at once. They left the town, and duly reached the inn owned by Wang Dinglu on the bank of the Yangtze River. When he saw Zhang Shun he said, "It was a pity that you were not here yesterday, when Zhang Wang happened to come here." "I saw him yesterday," said Zhang Shun, "but I was too busy to attend to him. My business is so pressing that I have no time even for revenge." Just as he finished saying this, Wang Dinglu exclaimed, "Why, here is Zhang Wang coming now. Do not alarm him. We will just see where he goes," said Zhang Shun. Zhang Wang walked to the bank of the river, and was evidently looking around for his boat. So Wang Dinglu called out, "Brother, wait a little, and you can take 2 of my guests across who are waiting here now." "I want to cross at once," said Zhang Wang. "Tell your guests to come quickly." Wang Dinglu informed Zhang Shun of this, and Zhang Shun asked Doctorin to change clothes with him. "What is your idea?" asked Doctorin. "That is my affair," said Zhang Shun, "and you had better not ask any questions." They exchanged clothing, and then went with Wang Dinglu to the bank where Zhang Wang's boat was waiting. They all 3 got in the boat. Zhang Shun went to the stern, and lifting up a plank took out a knife that was there. He hid himself under the cover of the boat. Zhang Wang shoved the boat off, and sculled towards the middle of the river. Zhang Shun now took off his clothes and called out, "Hey brother, come here. There are stains of blood on the planks." "Sir, please do not joke with me," replied Zhang Wang. So saying he left the oar, and went towards the center of the boat. Then Zhang Shun seized hold of him, and said, "Thief! Don't you recognize me? Don't you remember the passenger who came on your boat the other night, when it was snowing?" Zhang Wang looked up, but could not speak. "You took all my money," said Zhang Shun, "and tried to kill me. Where is your assistant now?" "Sir," said Zhang Wang, "when I saw such a lot of money I was afraid that he would want an equal share, so I killed him, and threw his body in the river. Previously I lived at Jiangzhou, said Zhang Shun, and earned a living as a wholesale fish dealer. But now I live at Liangshan Marsh under our leader Song Jiang, and we are feared everywhere. You falsely decoyed me on your boat, and while asleep you bound me, and threw me into the river. If I had not been an expert swimmer I should have been drowned. We are now enemies, and I must kill you. He then pulled Zhang Wang onto the deck, bound him hand and foot, and threw him into the river. Wang Dinglu heaved a sigh at this. Zhang Shun found where his money was stored, and took it back. They brought the boat to the northern bank, and there Zhang Shun spoke to Wang Dinglu, "You have been very good to me, and I shall never forget it. But if you do not think yourself above us, we should be very glad if you and your father would come and join us at Liangshan Marsh." "What you say is just my own idea," said Wang Dinglu. They then took leave of each other, and Zhang Shun and Dr. An continued on their way. But Dr. An was a literary man, and was not accustomed to traveling, so after walking about 10 li he could not go any further. Zhang Shun found an inn, and they went inside to rest a while. While they were eating a meal they noticed a man coming in who spoke to Zhang Shun, "Brother, how is it that you are so late?" Zhang Shun recognized the man as Dai Zong, the divine traveler. Zhang Shun introduced Dr. An, and then asked about Song Jiang. "He is still very sick," said Dai Zong, "and cannot take any food. It looks as though he might die." Zhang Shun wept at this. Dr. An asked what was the state of the patient's complexion. Dai Zong replied, "His skin is quite dry and wrinkled. He cries out with pain, and we are afraid that he is about to die. As he feels the pain I think we can cure him," said Dr. An, "but we must not delay our journey, but get there quickly." "That is easy," said Dai Zong. He took 2 of his magic puttees, and fastened them on Dr. An's legs. He then shouldered the doctor's satchel and spoke to Zhang Shun, "I will go with Dr. An first, and you may follow us slowly." They then went outside the inn, and the 2 flew away. Zhang Shun stayed at the inn for 3 days, and then he was joined by Wang Dinglu and his father. They traveled together to Liangshan Marsh. Dai Zong and Dr. An reached the mountain stronghold that night, and were at once taken in to see Song Jiang. The doctor found the patient breathing very feebly, and felt his pulse. Dr. An spoke to the leaders, "You need not be afraid, as it is not a serious illness, and I think I can cure him, so that he will be all right again in about 10 days. The doctor then took some artemisia, and spread it on the boil to draw out the poisonous matter. He also gave him some medicine to take. After about 10 days of this treatment Song Jiang's skin looked quite rosy, and was not so dry and warm as before. He also began to take nourishment. As he got better, however, he began to worry and weep about Shirxiu and Lu Junyi being still prisoners in Daming. Dr. An, however, objected to his being moved, or doing anything as he was only convalescent. "Brother," said Wu Yong, "you can leave matters in my hands while you yourself obey the doctor's orders. It is now springtime, and I will undertake an attack on Daming Prefecture, and release our brothers from prison." "If you avenge the wrong done to our brothers," said Song Jiang, "I shall die in peace." All the leaders were summoned to the Loyalty and Justice Hall, where Wu Yong announced his plans for an attack on Daming Prefecture. City changed to fiery furnace. Massive spears like forest trees. Corpses piled up high as mountain. Blood in pools as wide as seas. Loyal heroes with their laughter. Make the devils turn and flee. Footnote 79 Modern Nanking